It's winning time. Welcome back, everybody, as we are breaking down this season 2 finale, talking episode 7, which was titled What Is and What Should Never Be, as it is time for the Lakers to face off against the Celtics. Meanwhile, Dr. Buss has his hands full off the court, and the big question at hand, will there be a season 3 of Winning Time? We'll be discussing that and much more in today's spoiler breakdown review. But first, share your thoughts on the episode. Who was your MVP? What was your favorite, your least favorite moment? And share your overall thoughts of this second season. Which season did you prefer more, season 1 or season 2? And with the writer's strike going on and not a lot of promotion for season 2 of Winning Time, do you personally think we'll get a season 3? Let's discuss that in the comments below, as we got a finale to break down. Full spoilers ahead. As we get our old school HBO logo, it is May 27, 1984. Lakers and the Celtics have battled, and they have a history behind those battles. From Bill Russell to Jerry West, same rivalry but new faces. Kareem, Magic, and crew versus Bird and his team, as it is time for the NBA Finals. As we cut to the very first scene that we got in this new season, when we see the Lakers capturing Game 1 and they had to run out of the garden from the screaming fans, but this time around, obviously, we've come to the journey. We've seen what they had to go through to get to this point. As Magic and the team are ready to repeat this and hopefully win Game 2, Magic feels like they can sweep the Celtics. But Coach Reilly reminds him that this was only the first punch that they landed and they have to make adjustments if they want to win Game 2. Now, right now, Magic Johnson is buying way too much into the hype of him versus Bird, and he really doesn't seem to be focused on the big picture, which is they don't just have Larry Bird. They got a stacked roster. I'm talking about Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, Dennis Johnson. This was a really great team, and right now the Lakers seem to be underestimating them. As we head into Game 2, the Lakers are actually up by 2 with 18 seconds to go, and they're trying to get that 2-0 lead in Boston. As we see, Magic Johnson is completely controlling the game. He's actually up to getting a triple-double. Now, as a personal fan of the Los Angeles Lakers my entire life, I have seen this play a million times. All the Lakers had to do was hold on to the ball and force the Celtics to foul them so they can ice the game, but unfortunately, James Worthy makes a somewhat lazy pass. It gets stolen. Celtics make a layup and they tie the game. Now, in the huddle, we see Magic Johnson wants to play hero ball and wants everyone to get out of his way and give him the ball so he can win the game, as Cap has to remind him to just take in the moment and breathe. As Beat LA is being yelled throughout the garden, we see the Lakers inbound the ball to Magic Johnson, and for some reason he dribbles the clock out during regulation. Now again, as a fan of this show, as well as a fan of the Lakers in real life, I have no idea what Magic Johnson was dealing with or what was going on in his head during that time. Now in the series, they didn't show what actually happened. Now they showed that the Celtics obviously won that game, but in reality, there were way more unexpected and bad turnovers by the Lakers, whether it's Wilkes going into the overtime, which ultimately they lost the game. I wish they would have shown that a little bit more, but I understand what they were trying to do, which was show that Magic Johnson feels like he's responsible for them losing this game. As we see Mr. and Mrs. Johnson congratulate their son on the good game, even though they lost the game, Magic wants to have a quick word with Cookie. He tells her he loves her before we see the media kind of interrupting this moment, and we'll speak to what that moment means to Cookie a little bit later. Meanwhile, Dr. Buss is dealing with his honey situation as we have a conversation with Buss and Red talking about the game within the game and how they're building their dynasties. As Red is building a culture and a machine that takes the potential and turns it into greatness, and even when Larry Bird retires, they'll have many more Birds after he's gone. He's building something even bigger than himself. Now, first off, that line of taking potential and building into greatness was incredible. But secondly, I'll be honest with you all. Now, I'm a Lakers fan, so I might be a little bit biased, but the comment of we're going to have many more Birds after Larry Bird retires, yeah, that didn't happen in reality. While they won some division titles, they won the Eastern Conference Finals, but ultimately, it took over 22 years before the Celtics won another title, and yes, they definitely did not find another Larry Bird. Now, with all due respect to my Celtics fans, obviously we know they won that title in 2008. Great team, the big three, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and as well as KG. It was a good team, and of course, as we speak now, they have a good team built. Jason Tatum, who I think is going to be an all-time great once he's retired. You got Jaylen Brown, who just got that big contract, but again, no disrespect to the Celtics, they've never found another Larry Bird. Now, we haven't seen much of this particular aspect of the behind the scenes of the Lakers, which involves Claire and Jeanie, but we get a scene between the two and we see Jeanie has a brand new look. This new look comes with a brand new boyfriend who plays for the Kings, who goes by the name of Jay Wells, but we also see that her boyfriend just got a brand new contract. She also gave him some information about the payroll, which is obviously a big no-no. As Jeanie tells Claire that this was an executive decision and claims to be about the players and no need to play by the rules, give the players what they're worth, and ultimately it's in the best interest of California sports. Now, I'm not gonna lie, that was a very good excuse, Mrs. Jeanie. It sounds a lot like her father. She's learned a lot from her father, but she didn't seem to learn the message of you never mix business with pleasure, because we know that didn't work out for Dr. Buss. Now, I've mentioned it before, but I personally believe while everything involved in the team, while sometimes it felt a little rushed while we had some of the basketball stuff kind of cut out this season, but everything involved in the trades, the coach drama, the contracts, etc., all this stuff has been phenomenal for me. But Jeanie, Honey, Buss drama should have been replaced with showing stuff like this. We should have saw the change of Jeanie, the stuff going on with Claire, right? Her having the responsibilities of maintaining the momentum of making Los Angeles be taken more seriously as a sports city and not just looked at as Hollywood. So I wish we would have just focused more on this element. And again, I feel like seeing Jeanie make this change in her personality and character was just a missed opportunity to explore this more. As Magic talks to Jerry West about how he's playing within the game, but he doesn't feel like he's actually involved in the game, West tells him that he has a lot going on in his head right now, and one of those things is the issue of the battle between him and Bird. West goes into his battles with him and Bill Russell and how Bill made players better, but West was more concerned about elevating himself as a great player, which he ended up being one of the greatest to ever play the game. Now, I said this last week and I want to say it again. Anytime we get a scene with Jerry West and Magic Johnson, whenever they're on screen together, it's magical. To me, this was such insightful word of advice from a legend to another future legend. As a basketball fan and a fan of great writing, this scene was just executed perfectly. Especially considering what Magic is about to do, which is put his personal battle aside with Larry Bird and give his teammates more opportunities so they can win the game on the court. Cut to that game 3 where the Lakers beat the brakes off the Celtics. I'm talking 137 to 104 as Magic was in a complete zone. He was dishing out assists left and right. He ended up having 21 assists that game, which is an NBA Finals record. After that game, Larry Bird said in both the show and in real life, when asked how he felt about how his team played, he said they played like sissies. Absolutely love that scene there. Now, this is clearly Larry Bird's way of lighting a fire under his teammate asses. And just in case you all are wondering, that particular game was the worst game that the Boston Celtics have ever had in their playoff history until 1995 when they lost to the Magic by 47 points. Now, I'll mention it because it's obviously a part of the show, but I really don't care about it. But we get a scene with Honey and Buss, both of them having their lawyers. She feels like Dr. Buss conned her into giving up everything she had going in her life, which I don't know what she was doing during that time, but she had to drop her life to live this fantasy life with Dr. Buss, and she feels like she's the first person to call him out, and she actually calls him a fraud. I'll make this quick. I don't really care about this scene, but no, in all seriousness, the plot to me hasn't earned my attention to make me care about this scene here. Cut to the scene where Claire is telling Dr. Buss about this new TV deal that will not only put the Lakers on more TV games, but other teams. Now, this is obviously a win for Dr. Buss because he was one of the people advocating to make the NBA more prominent on television. So this is a great payoff, not only for this season, but also ties back to season 1. Dr. Buss isn't too happy because he shares the news with Claire that he has that $100 million situation going on with Honey, and I love how she's calling him out for that dumb decision, him marrying this woman but not having a prenup. What were you thinking, Mr. Buss? But again, Claire, I really miss her in the season because I like this moment where she's yelling out in front of the office, so I wish we would have gotten a little bit more Claire. I take Claire over Honey any day of the week. Now look, while I don't care about the Honey and Buss drama, I get the point of what they're showing here, how this failed relationship affected other people and him spending that time with Honey and ultimately it falling apart. And again, I just wish we would have gotten more of these moments with Claire and how it impacted people, because I think if we would have saw more of Claire this season and showed other, executives and other people that helped build this dynasty outside of the coaching staff and things of that nature, but I feel like this scene would have had more weight if we would have spent more time with those type of characters like Claire. As we head into Game 4, the Lakers are up 2-1 as they're looking like the Showtime Lakers, and they're taking care of business as the Celtics have to turn up their aggression and they have to match the energy of the Lakers, which they do, which we ultimately get this back and forth game. But as a Lakers fan, yet again, we get to see a very memorable moment between these two teams as we get the infamous play with Kevin McHale clotheslining, taking down Kurt Rambis, which obviously triggered a physical aspect of this particular game, but also just added more to this rivalry. My goodness, whoever decision to put this in the show is genius. As we see Larry Bird stopping Kevin McHale from apologizing to Rambis, I love that scene. He looks at the camera and he tells us, "We got him." This is the point where things change, as we see that the Celtics are in the Lakers' head, and even Bird gets into Kareem's head. Now, the refs aren't doing them no favors as we're seeing the Lakers lose their composure. Now, just putting my basketball fandom hat on for a second here, this scene was so fantastic because while I don't condone any violence, especially in sports, I miss this type of aggression. I miss this type of rivalry and beef that we don't have in the league now, because all the league players seem like they're best friends. They have podcasts together. I sound like an old man right now, right? Like, the game was much different when I was growing up, but this is a different time. I respect the game, but I just miss this type of aggression, these type of rivalries that we used to have in the NBA. Seen this happen so many times watching a game where you see a play like this. What happened to Kurt Rambis is it changes the momentum of the game, and great teams like the Boston Celtics, they take advantage of this. As we see, Cap ultimately fouls out of the game. We see Bird end up draining a shot right in Magic's face, and the Boston Celtics tie the series 2-2. Now, the show didn't show the big errors that Magic Johnson had late in that game that went into overtime yet again. Due to some of Magic's mistakes after the game, the Boston Celtics fans used to call Magic Johnson Tragic Johnson. As coach, Reilly has no words immediately after his loss, but he goes right into his office and destroys everything. But after he collects himself, he gives a phenomenal speech. They're suckers to them. No prison ball, play Lakers ball, no more tricks. Nothing can stop them as long as they keep their cool and their composure. I'll save more on this particular scene and just in general Adrien Brody a little bit later, but my goodness, this man deserves an Emmy for an incredible performance this season as the Lakers head into the Lions' Den for Game 5. Now, Game 5 was known as the Heat game because it got as hot as 97 degrees. They didn't have any air conditioning, ladies and gentlemen. It was so hot at points that the Celtics didn't even warm up in their sweatsuits because it was that hot during the game. And as we saw in this scene here, even Kareem needed an oxygen tank, making himself look like a dead man on the sideline. And we saw Red didn't make things better for them off the court. Hell, it was so hot that the referee even passed out. And yes, that actually happened in real life as Larry Bird scored 34 points and grabbed 17 rebounds that game as the Boston Celtics takes the lead 3-2. Now we cut to getting family time with the Johnsons, and I like this kind of character moment here where we see Magic talking to his dad, and his dad kind of reminding him to live in the moment and appreciate how far he's come. Meanwhile, we see Cookie is getting a little bit more attention, but she knows she has to kind of adjust her lifestyle because she loves Magic Johnson. Now, as the Lakers face elimination, that's not the only thing on Dr. Buss's mind right now because the press is covering the divorce situation like it's an actual game of basketball. As we see, Dr. Buss faces his team losing, but he's also facing maybe losing in the court of the public opinion of everyone seeing this situation, as we have this really kind of sentimental moment between Jeannie, who ends up coming to pay a visit to her father, and we see Dr. Buss couldn't be happier to be getting this visit from her. As Jeannie tells him that she loved the fact that her dad was able to buy the team because she was able to spend more time with him, but then she talks about how he kind of wants convenient moments, how he treated his kids, and Jeannie making him go to the game was such an earned moment, not only because we know what their relationship looks like, but I think this was an earned moment because it goes back to season 1, and I'll give credit to season 2 because if you think about that scene when they were playing Monopoly at game night, she feels like she's always forgotten. So I feel like that was just a really, while it was a quick scene, it was a really earned scene between a father and his daughter. As we head into Game 6, the big question at hand is, will Kareem play because he has a crazy migraine going on and this might cost him the game. As we see Magic Johnson having a one-on-one moment with the Cap, see Cap tells him that when he's in in pain like this, he likes to take it out on white boys, and he meant that because we see the Lakers tie the series 3-3, and they end up winning the game 119-108. Now again, a little critique, but they didn't show the actual game because the Lakers were able to answer the aggression that the Celtics gave them in the last game, and that really helped them in winning the game. And even though Cap had a migraine, he ended up getting 30 points and 10 rebounds to win that game as well. We cut to a really funny moment here between Larry Bird and his mom as she talks about who her two favorite players are, one being Magic Johnson and number one being Bill Laimbeer, which if you are a Bad Boys Pistons fan, you know the history between the Celtics and the Pistons. A quick glimpse into the future with Jeannie sitting in her father's seat. We also see all the main players being prepared and getting ready for less than 12 hours, one of the biggest challenges of their basketball careers up until that point. As it is time for Game 7, 48 minutes to settle a score for a game that started before these players were even Lakers. Will they take care of unfinished business is the question that Pat Reilly has for his team. Now normally you might get one great monologue from a main character, but in this moment we get two from Adrien Brody as Pat Reilly as he gives this incredible speech about unfinished business. Man, that speech had me wanting to get my sneakers and jersey out of the closet and lace up for Game 7. That was a hell of a speech by Pat Reilly. As we see, the game is going Boston's way and the Lakers are losing by 14 with 8 minutes to go. As we see, the Celtics are celebrating a little bit too early. The question is, do the Lakers have one last punch left inside of them? We see the Lakers make a big fight and they fight for their pride right now and they're fighting for one another. As we slowly see them cutting away at the lead, they're down 5 with less than 2 minutes to go. With a minute and 12 seconds left on the clock, the Lakers are down 3. The crowd's going crazy. Beat LA, beat LA. Now, I know what happens, but this show still managed to keep me on the edge of my seat after seeing what they did to get to this point. We see Magic gets a stop on Bird, but unfortunately, we see a turnover on one end that ends up getting called a foul. We see the Celtics are now celebrating because the clock's winding down. The Lakers know that they're about to lose, and they ultimately do lose this fantastic Game 7, which if I'm being honest, I wish we could have spent a little bit more time on the minutia and the more details of timeouts and big plays, but hey, I get it. You only got a certain amount of time. I still think they captured the essence and the intensity of this Game 7, but I wish we would have gotten a couple more scenes to really show you how intense this game really was. As ultimately the clock winds down and the Lakers lose Game 7 to their rivalry Boston Celtics, the fans are storming the court, the Celtics win, and there are punches being thrown, and yes, this did actually happen. One of those punches by Kurt Rambis, who landed on the fan, which ended up being a lawsuit. The rivalry was like no other that we've seen before. None of that matters because again, the Celtics win the championship. We see them celebrating Larry Bird, which they didn't show. He actually won the MVP of that series. And just speaking to the series and how big it was for the game of basketball, this was the 8th time in NBA history that the Celtics and the Lakers met in the finals, with Boston winning each time. But this was their first championship that the Celtics were able to claim on their home court since 1966. As we wrap up the episode with the big questions, is this the beginning of the end for the Lakers? Can their young superstar Magic Johnson and their veteran Kareem get them back on top to finally beat the Celtics? As the final shot of this season 2 shows Magic Johnson alone in the showers after defeat. So to me, this episode was great. They knew to focus on this series, and while they did cut between some of the character moments that we discussed in today's breakdown, I love that they show what happened on the court. Now again, there were some moments I wish they would have showed more, but again, it captured how intense it was and how great it was between these two great teams. The episode MVP for me has to go to Pat Reilly, and I'll give some love to Jeannie because I thought that she had some really great moments in this episode as well. But sharing my overall thoughts of this second season, I love, and I mean love this season, showing all the behind the scenes drama, whether it was trades, signing new players, drafting players, waiving players, a 25 for 25 years contract, and winning the championship, losing the championship, and ultimately building to the great rivalry, getting to that finals. And I loved how much Larry Bird was involved in the season, and Red, of course. They were both fantastic. And like I've said in previous reviews, that even last week, which was a great episode, I feel like they kind of skipped over some things. And And I felt like some of the more minutia and some of the off the court things could have been played out more. And forget all that honey and buzz stuff, which we'll talk about here in a second. But I want to put a spotlight on the basketball of this show, which I thought was excellent. I'm talking about giving credit to the writers, the directors, and obviously the actors, of course, but the direction and the choreographed scenes that they capture, the actual basketball scenes, deserves all the credit in the world. Now, getting to my main issue with this season, y'all might know it already, but just in case you don't, everything involving Honey, Dr. Bus, and Jeannie, to me, and obviously throwing in their brothers, the boys' drama. In reality, I didn't think that stuff had much of a closure, especially the divorce. We don't even really, I mean, I know what happens, but the show doesn't show you what happened. And the brothers, the boys, were completely missing for the last 3 to 4 episodes of this final season. Now, to be fair, John C. Reilly and all the actors involved in those scenes were great, but as I said in my earlier breakdown, I feel like all that screen time could have been spent elsewhere. So right now, I'll be honest with you all, I'm torn between which season I prefer more. Like, I love all the basketball stuff more in this season, but I think season 1 had more of a character-driven story, and I feel like both performances were great in both seasons, but I feel like season 1 was able to capture the basketball stuff and the great off-the-court stuff, and this season did the greatest stuff with the basketball stuff, the behind-the-scenes of trading contracts, but the character stuff, wasting so much time on Bus and Honey, to me, I think I might lean towards season 1 being just a little bit better, but let me know your thoughts on that. And I'll just finish on these few points here. Now, while this character got on my nerve, shout out to my boy Jason Segel as Paul Westhead. He did a phenomenal job. So when it comes down to my season MVP, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to have to give it to a two-way tie. I'm going to give one side of that MVP to Pat Reilly, played by Adrien Brody, who I think deserves to get some nominations when it comes to Emmy season. But also, shout out to Quincy Isaiah. I thought that he was great in season 1, but I feel like he elevated himself as an actor in season 2. So those are my 2 MVPs for this entire season. Shout out to Pat Reilly, played beautifully by Adrien Brody. But shout out to my man Quincy Isaiah, who played Magic Johnson. Now I'm going to end this video by saying I believe that this was one of the best shows so far this year, and I've seen the push online for a lot of the people that are allowed to talk about it during this strike about the promoting of this show. Now, in my eyes, I feel like the promotion was just lacking from HBO in general. I wish there was a little bit more focus on that, and I get down to this. I really do hope that there is season 3, because man, there's a lot more to see. I'm talking about 1985, I'm talking 1987, and of course 1988. I really do hope that we get a season 3. Obviously, we're in a writer's strike, and I respect everything that's going on with the writers who deserve to get paid, the actors that deserve to get paid, and I don't know if a season 3 is guaranteed. I really do hope that we get one, because I would love to see not only season 3, I want 10 of these seasons if you ask me, but let me know what you all think about that in the comments below. I want to thank everyone who liked these videos, shared these videos, and left your comments on all the weekly breakdowns for Winning Time Season 3. I plan on editing a larger video, like taking all the recaps into one big video, so keep an eye out for that soon. Now, this is closing one door on this show. For all my movie fans out there, keep an eye out for my out-of-theater reactions for all my up-and-coming early critic screenings, as well as all of my full movie breakdowns. And I'll be covering the remaining episodes of Only Murders in the Building Season 3, as well as The Changeling every week, Generation V, Low Key Season 2, the final season of Sex Education, just to name a few things. Keep an eye out for all my TV recaps coming soon. Thank you again for all the support. Help me get to my next milestone of 60,000 subscribers by clicking the subscribe button and hitting that notification bell. Thank you guys again. You all be safe out there, and I'll catch you on the next video.